What is up, everybody? Welcome back. My name is Dr. Brandon Osborne. I am the Director of Training here at Momentum WOD. If you have been tuning into our videos in the past few weeks, today we are going to be doing something very similar. What we've been doing is looking at kettlebell technique from your favorite mixed martial arts, jiu-jitsu, and combat sports athletes, breaking down their technique, letting you know what we like about it, what we don't like, what you can take and utilize for your training to make you a better athlete and to make you a safer strength training participant. Today's video is going to be featuring somebody who you are very familiar with, most likely, somebody who is influence is widespread in all areas of not only combat sports, but media and culture in general. We are going to be looking at the technique of none other than Joe Rogan. Joe has been one of the biggest proponents, one of the biggest advocates for kettlebell training in combat sports, and it's only appropriate that we take a look at what he's doing and let you know how it looks. I want to be clear before we get into this that the intention of this video is not to make fun, is not to criticize or put down anybody, but to learn from the mistakes and apply those lessons so that we can be better at what we're doing. So if what I'm saying comes off as being harsh or being unfair, that is not the intent or the intention. This is not rehearsed, so everything I'm saying is flying off the cuff and is, I'm just being true to what I see. So let's take that information. Let's get started with today's video. So the clips we're using today were compiled, I think, out of Joe's home gym for the most part, and some of the clips are pretty short, so we're gonna have to pause to really get an idea of what he's doing, and then in some parts I'll just let the video run. But we're starting off the video with Joe doing some renegade rows to push-ups, which is a super challenging exercise. I don't know if you've ever done those before. And then we're moving into I's, Y's, and T's, which is a staple in physical therapy offices across the country. Okay, so this third exercise he's doing, this is the first point I want to pause the video. Joe is doing what I would call a double static overhead press kettlebell sit-up, I guess you would say. He's got his feet hooked into two kettlebells at the bottom of the screen. And then he's got the kettlebells pressed overhead. He's holding them statically like you would with a Turkish get-up or an iso press. And then he's doing sit-ups from that position. A lot of what Joe does in this video I actually really like. This I hate. This is one of the worst things you could possibly do if you want to prevent back pain, or if you want to give yourself back pain. This is what I would do. I don't know if I've explained before, but my background is clinical. I was in clinical practice. I own a spine care practice for about 7 years, and the way that we develop disc injuries in the low back, this is the recipe to do so. Flexion-based movement under load, compression, repetition, all of these things together are going to compile to create a lot of stress on the intervertebral discs of the low back. I would not recommend you do this exercise or any flexion-based exercise under load repetitively. A better way to approach, if you're looking for, let's say, an isometric exercise that's going to develop pressing power and core endurance and strength, let's invert that position. Let's put you in a plank. Let's add some movement to it. And from there, you'll be developing those same things without putting yourself at risk the way Joe is right now. And I know, having listened to Joe's podcast, that he has a history of low back pain, specifically where his back goes out, which is the most common description when people have disc injuries. So that being said, Joe, stop doing this exercise, please. Let's move on here. Safety first, everybody. So next thing we're moving is a unilateral chest press, which I really like. We've talked about chest presses in our past videos. With this chest press, the fact that it's unilateral, it's an asymmetric exercise. So what is going to happen is the opposite side of your body is actually going to have to activate and contract to stabilize that movement. And as a result, that unilateral movement is actually a bilateral exercise. So I like the use of unilateral movements in kettlebell training, in strength training, for combat sports. It actually makes it a more functional and a more dynamic exercise. So I like what Joe's doing here. Moving on, double kettlebell rear lunges, a great exercise for your knees if you're looking to prevent injury. This would be something I would incorporate into your training. And then we're moving to a kettlebell goblet squat. I'm going to pause again here. Joe, if you look at the bottom, he has his knees banded. It looks like the band might be a little bit on the low resistance end. I'd probably bump that up a little bit. Or it could just be for some proprioceptive input so he's aware of his knee positioning. In that case, it's perfectly fine. The thing I would do, and I'm being a stickler here, his form looks great. And you'll notice Joe is not wearing shoes. I've brought this up in other videos. We don't want to be wearing shoes when we're training with kettlebells. Good job, Joe. He's the first one to do that. Thumbs up to him. The thing I don't like about what he's doing, or the thing that I would tweak a little bit, is the tempo at which he's performing this exercise. Squats, especially goblet squats, it's a two-handed exercise. You can only go so heavy with the weight, so it's not going to be, you're not going to get the same hypertrophy out of this exercise that you would out of like a barbell squat. So the way that you can get more out of less weight is by slowing it down. So pause in the top position, control that movement. After you've controlled, descend, hold that bottom position for a 1 to a 2 count, or even longer if you're really looking to mobilize those hips, and then powerfully explode out of that position and go back and control that top position once more. He's kind of just chaining one rep to the next, not really pausing at any point in the movement. So for this, that would be the big thing that I would suggest. If you want to get more out of your kettlebell squats, slow down the tempo. Okay. And the next thing, I'm going to pause again here. We talked about windmills in the past. Joe is doing a kettlebell windmill. It looks like it's a heavy weight, and his mobility is really impressive, but his technique is lacking in this movement. And there's 2 exercises over the course of this video where his technique looks like it could use some coaching. Everything else looks pretty good. This is one of those exercises. So instead of keeping his back leg straight, lifting the hips and shifting the hips like we talked about in our other video, he seems to just be bending from the waist. So the way that I would change this, or the way that I would improve what he's doing here, is first I would change his stance. His stance is way too wide. So I narrow up the stance, and then from there, you want to angulate the feet slightly away from the direction of the bow. Your one leg is going to be slightly less angled than your other leg. From there, initiate the movement by rotating the thoracic spine. And this is something that Joe is not doing as he's working through this movement. What that's going to do is that's really going to open things up for you, and from there it's going to make the movement a lot easier. The second thing Joe's doing, which I don't love, is that he's touching the floor. With this exercise, you don't have to go into a full range of motion to get the benefits of it. Work within a range of motion that your body is allowing for. Take it slow, control that movement, and gradually, as your body starts to open up and allow for more mobility, get deeper into the exercise. I think with Joe, because he is a very mobile individual, you would notice that the technique would clean up very quickly, and he'd be able to do it well if we just modified those few things. His mobility is super impressive though. Next exercise, we're doing a split squat to an overhead press. I like that for your knees as well. And from there, we're going into a kettlebell dead clean, and I'm going to pause once more. I like what Joe's doing here from a technique perspective. His technique actually looks really good. One of the biggest mistakes that we've seen in our past videos with people doing this exercise is they flip the kettlebell onto their forearm, which is not supposed to happen with a clean. The clean is a rotational movement of the bell where it's going to pivot around your wrist rather than flip over onto your wrist. Joe is doing it correctly, where it's not flipping, it's not slamming on his forearm, and he is avoiding the fate of the tenderized forearm meat. So, and what I also note here is that I've seen videos of Joe doing this in the past, where he was flipping it on his forearm. So he's either getting coaching or learning from his mistakes, and he's improved his technique, and I like that he's doing that. I had somebody reply to last week's video telling me that I was giving off an Aubrey Marcus vibe, so I'm not sure what that means. If I am a caring, honest, insightful person, or if they meant something else by that, but I'm going to interpret it as a positive and say thank you. All right, we're back to Joe's home gym. We're doing a clean to a push press to an overhead squat. Once again, a testament to Joe's mobility. This is not an easy movement. This is not a beginner movement. I believe that bell is a, I think on it calls it 2 Pood, which I actually had to look this up. So a moment of education for everybody out there. I'm going to tell you what a Pood is. I didn't know this, so this is news to me. A Pood is a unit of weight of the Imperial Russian weight measurement system, which the USSR officially abolished in 1924. 1 Pood is equivalent to 16 kilograms, so this weight being 2 Pood would be 32 kilograms, which means it's approximately 70 pounds. So Joe doing this with a 70-pound kettlebell, push press to overhead squat, super impressive. That is not easy. And this exercise here, which we have seen, I think we've seen in the past, I don't know if we have or not in our past videos, going through Turkish get-up. I want to break this one down a little bit slower. Joe's technique is good, but there's room for improvement. And these little things, these little details, let's pick them apart so that you can implement these changes when you're using this exercise, which I think is personally the best exercise for jiu-jitsu performance, and not make these mistakes and do it correctly. So the first thing I would do when setting up, Joe is in this position. The static position of the bell looks fine. His off arm, the one that is not holding the bell, I would have it at a little bit more of an angle, 30 to 45 degrees, and then I would have the straight leg at that same angle. That's going to give you more of an opportunity when you begin that movement to roll into the first position as opposed to sitting up in the first position. From here, his alignment looks pretty good. We're going to prop up onto the hand, bridge, step that foot back, pivot, stand up, lunge back, pivot, reach, and this is the next point I wanted to pause. Notice the positioning of Joe's hand in relation to his knee, his down knee. His hand is behind his knee, and as a result, it's creating a lot of compression, like where his rib cage is, in through his hip. What would be better in this situation would be as if he aligned the reach of his hand with the position of his knee. And you'll see Anna doing it here in this demonstration, that her hand is going to be in a straight line from where her knee is, or pretty close to it. Doing that will give your whole body a better alignment as you're working through this exercise, which is going to create less stress on your joints, plural, particularly the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, the hip, the knee, the ankle, everything from top to bottom. It's going to make a difference with regards to your orientation, and it's going to be a more realistic movement that's going to translate better to your performance, because when you're moving through different positions, when you're grappling, your joint alignment is going to be important for you not to get hurt and for you to be efficient and effective with your technique. So the other thing I would do, much like his squats, is I would slow the movement down a little bit more. Own and control each and every position of that movement to get the most out of it. Last exercise we're doing is a kettlebell swing. Something looks a little bit off here. I know Joe's using a heavy weight again. I'm going to rewind just a little bit. And as I'm observing him going through this movement, his form looks good, But it looks to me, much like what we've seen in the past, that Joe is pulling the kettlebell up through the upswing and not driving through the legs as much. So like we've seen, his hip hinge looks a little shallow, so we want to get deeper into that hinge. And what I mean by that is, as that kettlebell is passing through your legs, that forearm is contacting the inner upper thigh. The position of the kettlebell should be as close to a 9 o'clock position behind you as you can get it, which means that you're really deep into that hinge. From there, drive through the heels, power those hips forward into a neutral position, and that power should generate the momentum to drive the bell through the upswing. Something else that might help Joe, I don't know if I've mentioned it in the past, using chalk. This is a heavy exercise. His grip might be slipping as he's performing it. Chalk up those hands when you're performing, especially one-arm swings and snatches, and it will make a world of difference with regards to your ability to perform the movement safely. And that is the last exercise in today's breakdown, today's reaction video. Joe clearly has been using kettlebells for quite some time. There are some specifics, some little details with certain movements that could definitely use improvement, but overall his technique is eons better than most people we see out there. So just some little things to help him prevent injury, so he can keep doing the things that he loves to do. And I would hypothesize that those double kettlebell sit-up overhead press things that he was doing may have contributed to the etiology of his disc injuries at some point in time, during an exacerbation that he's experienced. As always, if you have enjoyed this video, do not hesitate to hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, let me know whose technique you want to see me break down next, what you want me to talk about. We're working on getting another video out every week, but we want to make sure that it's something that provides you with value and is entertaining at the same time, which is what I hope this video has been for you. If you want to get more content like this, don't hesitate to stop over to momentumwod.com. We have a 7-day free trial of our Jiu-Jitsu kettlebell performance training system, which is available to you. The link is in the description below, so I'll leave that there for you. Alright guys, I've had a lot of fun with this video. I hope you have enjoyed it as well. Like I said, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Head over to momentumwod.com, try out that free trial, make use of these skills, implement them into your training protocols, and become a better athlete and a safer athlete as a result of doing these things. I will see you guys next time. This is Dr. Brandon Osborne from momentumwod.com. Be well.